This is why we call it cost of freedom. Sometimes it includes the cost of keeping Americans in the dark, because the secret deal to bring Sergeant Bo Bergdahl home just blew up in our face and stands to cost us a bundle. The Army now says that Bergdahl is a deserter, and the 5 Taliban terrorists we secretly swapped for him could make us sitting ducks. And now the folks behind that doozy of a deal are secretly negotiating another one with the Iranians. So what could possibly go wrong? Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto. And in golf, I think they call it a mulligan. Another shot if you screw up. But this isn't about playing through. Some fear after the president's disastrous Bergdahl deal, we are being played. And since this is the same crew negotiating a nuke deal with the Iranians, well, Charles Payne fears we're being played like a fiddle. Joining Charles, we have got Dagan McDowell, Charlie Gasparino, and Adam Lashinsky. Ben Stein is off this week. All right, so Dr. Payne, this is a pain. This is scary stuff. Listen, President Obama began as president of the United States with his tour around the world, bowing to world leaders and this sort of one world nation. We're all equal. We're all the same. This is taking that whole ideology to a different level. Listen, it was unseemly when he was hugging the Bergdahl family, the Rose Garden thing. Even if you thought you made a good deal, even on paper everyone knew it was a bad deal. Why the pomp? Why the circumstances? Why the Rose Garden deal? He's so involved in his ideology. Even to this moment, he says he's unapologetic. What kind of crazy deal could he be putting together behind the scenes in Iran? Well, that's what worries it. Normally when a board or an executive makes a bad decision in corporate America, he or she is not given a second chance to screw up.
Right, and you know, calling ISIS the JV team, and you do really have to question President Obama's not his intelligence. Very smart guy, great politician, but on these foreign policy issues, you have to question his intelligence. He has made one misstep after another. Now, you know, he would shoot back and say, you know, I didn't get us involved in Iraq. That was the misstep of all missteps, which he's kind of right about. But, you know, for us to trust him with, you know, a nuke deal with Iran right now, following Bergdahl and following the ISIS as the JV team, you know, would be insane. But I will say one thing about the Bergdahl thing. I read an account of what he was under, what happened to him while he was in captivity. And I will say this, that as a human being, when I read that, I'm not saying what the administration did was right, bringing him home. I felt like I would want that kid home.
Well, even allow me for that, and I understand the president's position at the time, 10 minutes ago, Dagan, to say we don't leave any guy behind. Right. Fine. We also don't swap them for 5 terrorists. Right. But what's done in secret is now done. It's the same secrecy behind a new deal where we have much broader implications, right, much bigger ramifications, and that is a nuke deal with Iran.
So a lack of trust in how the White House has acted in these two scenarios, dealing with the most untrustworthy of nations, and we're talking about Iran. I think, and this is me guessing, but I think a lot of this behavior by the White House and the people there is that it's the, let me be clear, the president always says that, it's, you don't need to know. We're smart, you guys aren't, we're making the decisions, we're going to do this on our own, whether you like it or not, and then if we decide to tell you after the fact, then we will do that.
What worries me is the fact that the last deal worried me, Adam, and what worries me as well is the fact that he will push this through just an executive order, executive stance, maybe go to the UN, get a write-off there, but never bring it back to Congress. And that was a big enough issue to worry 367 representatives in the U.S. House, more than 100 Democrats included, who said, no, you don't.
Well, to your point, the negotiations with Iran strike me as classical diplomacy, and that strikes me, I don't know if they're going to call it a treaty, Neil, but I happen to agree with you. They ought to call it a treaty, and a treaty needs to be confirmed by the Senate. I agree.
I don't think
Congress should look at something like this.
I don't know what they're going to call it. Well, half-ass is what I'm going to call it. My fear is they're going to cobble together something that they'll argue under some legalistic language doesn't need the approval of the United States Congress, which would be a bad thing.
Well, but I think these are two separate issues. I agree with you, but that doesn't mean that what they're doing, that doesn't mean that they're not doing a good job. And by the way, I don't think they screwed up this Bergdahl thing.
Adam, doesn't it scare you just a little bit that the president wants to get the approval from the UN on this? I mean, that to me is so scary that a U.S. president would go to the UN and have, you know, Libya or whoever, China, vote on our treaty. I mean, this is insane.
But they won't call it.
You know, we have a
or whatever.
We have
it
a
is.
months-long process going on with high-level delegations. You know,
We've got a few days to get this deal together, unless they extend it again. So Charles Payne, I hear you, Adam. But my fear is, given the Bergdahl situation, given some of the other screw-ups you alluded to, I'm very, very worried about what could be cobbled together in secret, and the details we find out later.
You have to be worried. The president said this week he is unapologetic for Bergdahl. And regardless of what kind of treatment he had, people who were in the military with him sounded the alarm. They said this guy deserted us, and our men died.
I think he was saying he didn't care, that he might have deserted, to Charlie's point, whatever the circumstance, but we don't leave any guy behind, controversial or not.
But if you desert your unit and 6 people died looking for you, I don't think that you deserve the same integrity and rights as any other, as the rest of the men and women who fought over there.
Hey, but Charles, if I may, this is an important point. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but factually, you're wrong. I mean, the point is, we believe in justice, right? So we went and we got him back, and now he's going through the military justice system.
Listen, we gave away.
Of course, there's
the
price
for
is
pretty high.
Charles.
Here's the thing, though. This is what bothers me, though, Adam, is the aftermath of it. There's no humility from the White House. There's never any humility. There's always arrogance. You call any member of the White House to go before Congress to explain anything, and they just have such disdain for anyone outside of their power structure, and it's crazy.
But to Adam's point, we have done prisoner exchanges in the past. You know, who was the pilot shot down?
I'm not talking about the exchange. I'm saying
we've exchanged spies that wanted to kill us.
It feels at this point, though, that the exchange might have been a huge mistake. And if so, if I'm president of the United States, when does a mea culpa come into play?
But there's always prisoner changes that
So it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback.
Yes, that's the whole thing.
And that's what we're being, which is fine, because now we know enough about this deal and what. But I'm worried.
Right.
These are the same folks who are behind the scenes putting together a far bigger deal over nukes with Iran.
Rushing to do a deal with Iran over nukes.
I get the feeling we want a deal much more than the Iranians do.
Well,
right.
President Obama wants
Look at Iran. Okay, we're rushing to do this nuclear deal with Iran. At the same time, Houthi rebels in Yemen, backed by Iran, Saudi Arabia is fighting against those very rebels. We're helping Saudi Arabia. We're on the other side of that equation. Then, if you look at ISIS, you've got Iran and Saudi Arabia. Iran helping the United States fight ISIS into Crete. But then there's all these other things going on in that area where there's some groups that have been backing away. It is a morass. And
would you not be negotiating bilaterally with the Iranians at all? If you're the president, you wouldn't be talking?
Not
at this point, you have to talk.
We're going to give away too much stuff, and that's what people say.
But here's the other thing. If you don't get Congress to approve this, Adam, I mean, here's the point I want to make.
Well, Adam thinks Congress should be approving.
Well, they're not going to do it. He's not going to do it.
If this bypasses Congress, Adam, which stands likely to be the case, would you be worried?
I'm going to worry. I think it's prudent that we worry about everything, but we shouldn't let the perfect be the enemy of the good here. I just want to remind you.
My friend, that is not what I asked you. If we get a deal with whatever it is, and we don't run it by Congress, would that be bad?
Well, yes, I prefer that we run everything by Congress, Neil. But one important point: negotiations have to happen in secret. I mean, corporate negotiations happen in secret before the shareholders.
All I'm saying, my friend, is this other thing happened in secret, and look how well that turned out.
Congress thought they were part of the corporate board, though. We're not talking about shareholders.
Yeah, we're not talking like some extraneous party here. I mean, that's the whole notion. It's the check on the executive branch.
Exactly.